what was your philosophy around the first few people that you hired?
When we started the company, we realized that I was the one with the most number of LinkedIn followers and friends. Obviously, I'd never thought of it as, this will help me hire for my startup, but it did.
Before the call, you were mentioning about cheating in interviews.
And I actually confronted her multiple times. Why are you looking at a particular corner of your screen and so on? And she said, nothing, I'm not doing anything.
Are there other such things about Skydo's culture that you would like people to know?
Usually, all engineers at Skydo are full stack. I think we were in a meeting and somebody referred to engineers as developers. And he said, don't use the word developers. I don't need any developers at PhonePe. Developers just write code. Engineers solve problems. We actually actively encourage everybody to exercise every morning or evening, follow a good sleep schedule, spend time with their family or their pets or their partners or their friends over the weekends. I think as of now, across the company, we probably have about 30 job openings.
Hey Movin, thank you so much for coming to speak with us. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Hey Shikhar, pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So Movin, firstly, super congratulations on the Series A. I think it is something you announced a couple of months back. I know the Skydo team has been rapidly growing, in the past, couple of months or probably even years. I think what would be a good start to this chat is if you can give the audience a quick brief of what does your team look like at Skydo? Who are the kind of people that you spend majority of your time with? What are their roles like, and what is the team size, etc. So, would love to get started with that.
Sure thing. Thank you for the wishes. So we are now at a team size of about 170, and we've crossed the mark where I was able to remember everybody's names. At least I still remember everybody's faces right now. But with the looks of it, we will probably cross that also soon. But to answer your question, I think we've got a significant focus on growth and sales and marketing. So a lot of folks among this 170 actually work on that. So I look after technology, product, compliance, operations, customer experience, and banking partnerships. So the leaders of each of these functions report to me, and I spend a lot of time with them and their teams. And then, of course, as a founder, I also look at everything else and help my co-founder with a few things. So I also spend some time with the growth team and other teams. And it's vice versa for my co-founder, Srivatsan, as well.
Very interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this might also be into engineering, product, etc. So what's the size of that team like?
So our engineering team is about 10 people. And our product team is about 6 as of now. And then we have about 4 people in design. So overall, about 20 people across engineering, product, and design. You might feel that our engineering team is pretty small compared to the size of the product and design team. That is by design, no pun intended. Our philosophy was to keep the engineering team lean. And I think that has become much more possible and has actually become the talk of the town now. But for us, it was important and top of mind from day one. And we had no idea that there's going to be Claude Code or Codex or whatever else. So it's a nice coincidence that whatever philosophy we had from the beginning and we're trying to maintain it in a slightly more hardworking way has actually become easier now. But the good thing is that when this happened, we did not have to rethink the kind of people that we need to hire in our team. We actually had the right people who could use AI tools and were not thinking of AI as a threat, but rather as a weapon to make themselves more dangerous. So I think that has gone pretty well. And I think same applies for product and design as well. But I think in engineering, the gains of AI are particularly more pronounced. And we are having a great time now because we already had the right team in place for that kind of a world.
You touched upon a very interesting point that you thought about the product engineering ratio based on what market you are in, what company you're building. I think a lot of founders, talk about this. It's a very hot topic on what should an ideal product engineering ratio be, and especially with AI, I think there's more talk about what it should ideally be. How would you recommend other founders to think of that ratio, depending on what they're building, etc., or are there other parameters that they should keep in mind when they are deciding what this ratio should be for their own company?
So a lot of the product innovation that we do, and when I use the word product here, I'm not talking about product management. I'm just talking about the products that we build. The product innovation is actually led by partnerships and not by writing code. So let's say we provide virtual accounts in 10 countries today and support 30 currencies. Now we want to provide virtual accounts in the 11th country and support 5 more currencies. Writing code is not the answer. The approach is and people who are in payments will find this obvious, but I'm still stating it for everybody else. Basically, we will have to find a partner who can provide virtual accounts in that country. So it will be either a bank or a licensed fintech in that country who's willing to partner with us and willing to work with the kind of user base that we have. So our partnership team will actually start working on this 6 months before we launch this product. So as you can see, the first 6 months of building any fundamentally new capability at Skydo does not involve writing even a single line of code. That fundamentally has an implication on the engineering to product ratio.
Yeah.
And the other thing is our philosophy, and also some of the hard lessons I learned from my first startup, which I've often talked about with you, is that we are very clearly focused on only building stuff that our customers are asking for. I've spent 3 years of my life building a company where we did not know what our customers want. We did not even know who our customers are. And we just built something, as a crazy techie, saying, let's just build it and they will come.
Yeah.
But that's the worst way to build a business, according to me. And now that I've learned from it, I know better. And from the day I started Skydo, we've been, kind of overcorrecting for this mistake of mine. And we've been focused on only building what our users are asking for and only writing code when it is absolutely necessary. So, for example, in the first year, we had hired 5 engineers. We probably needed only 2 to 3. And people used to ask us why you have only 5 engineers. Usually people, usually companies in your stage, you would have like 15. We had the budget, we had the money to hire much more, but we did not know what to do with them. So even with 5, we actually had a lot of extra bandwidth in the engineering team that we did not need. But the kind of people we hired were so customer obsessed and so business first that they were spending about half of their time talking to customers, trying to understand what customers want and why the current existing options in cross-border payments don't work for our customers. Yeah, so that's what engineers do at Skydo. I think writing code is only the last part of a pretty long and complex product innovation process. And working very closely with the banking partnerships team, which is actually going to bring these partnerships, is one of the exciting things for an engineer at Skydo.
Wow. So I think one takeaway from this, which is probably relevant to a lot of companies, is that there's often a lot of work that goes behind writing the first line of code. And I think in your case, it's a lot of finance related work. For other companies, it could be other work. And in those cases, it makes sense to have more people who are doing that pre-work of sorts before writing code, or sometimes even the engineers can chip in and help the rest of the team, with that stuff. And because you mentioned your, first few engineers, the first few people you hired, I want to go back to the time when you were starting the company. Um, and what was your philosophy around the first few people that you hired? If you can share with us some examples of the people you hired, how did you end up hiring them? Because when you're just starting out, it's often quite difficult for founders to convince other people to join their mission, join their company. What was it like for you?
I think we had a fair share of luck to be able to attract some really great people. Some of them are, still with us. Some of them have moved on. But let me take a couple of examples. Our employee number one was a person called Rishabh. He leads product, so he's our head of product right now. And I knew him for a few years because he used to take some gyan from me on product management. He's a junior from college. And so when I was starting the company, I called him up saying, I'm starting this. Would you like to be part of this team? Just like him, I made this call to three, four other people as well who I had been kind of mentoring and who I knew were good and hardworking folks and who wanted to do well. Um, and luckily, Rishabh, took that offer and then started a interview process with us. My co-founder met him, and then we formally interviewed him, and so on. He interviewed us as well because it was a big risk for him. We were not able to even tell him the name of the company because we had not decided yet. All we had was a term sheet from an investor and just two co-founders willing to build something with a big ambition. So he believed in that and decided to join us. So that was
Wow. So he
pretty
joined
amazing.
even before you had a
Yes.
name, even before you had
Yeah, yeah. And
raised
we could
funding.
not pay him a salary officially because we had not incorporated the company. So we did ultimately pay him for those months, but just for the record. But he was so interested in what we were doing, and he liked us so much that he was he took the bet. And same way we liked him so much that we were able to get him on board when we ourselves had very little idea of what exactly the product will look like, and what the team needs to look like, and so on. So, so he was our employee number one, and then I think he referred a couple of other people, including our head of design. She had worked with him in the past, and then our head of engineering, Abhijit, who worked with us for about 3 years, 3.5 years, and he left last year to start his own company. Um, so he, I think, was introduced to me through Elevation Capital's talent acquisition team. They are pretty good at what they do, and I think they've helped me massively. But he was, I think, probably the 10th person I met when I was searching for an engineering leader. And I liked the fact that he had been a founder before and wanted to be a founder again, um, which ultimately has happened. Um, and and he had a lot of business focus and not just engineering focus. Most of the questions he asked me about the company were on business and on strategy. And his thinking was, engineering I will manage. Don't worry about it. I just want to make sure the business is worth putting the hard work in. Right. So I think that thinking really resonated with me. I have been a techie, I have been a coder, and I have written a lot of code that did not add any value to customers. So I think, uh, so for me, having people in the engineering team who are very focused on this, what value will it add to customers? What real world impact will it create? How will my code change the world? I think that is super important. So that is one hiring philosophy I have for the engineering team, that, engineers should really understand the philosophy and the strategy of the company. They are the costliest talent for any company usually. So having their minds, engaged on the company's strategy and direction is super important. Otherwise, you're wasting a lot of talent in just
Yeah.
writing code. I
Yeah. And
think
I think I'm starting.
this
Yeah.
also
Sorry.
this also reminds me of a quote that I heard from Rahul, who's the founder and CTO of PhonePe. Uh, I think we were in a meeting and somebody referred to engineers as developers. And he said, don't use the word developers. I don't need any developers at PhonePe. Developers just write code. Engineers solve problems. And
Wow.
that quote has stayed with me. And I follow the same philosophy.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. I hadn't heard of the quote before, but I was going to say I have heard, of course, a lot of founders talk about, especially nowadays. I think more and more people are expecting this from engineers, whereas not just the technical problems, but also having context of the business, what problem they're solving. Uh, And from that day, from hiring the first set of people in Skydo to now, I'm sure hiring now would be very different. Uh, what are the key roles that you are hiring for in your org as of today? And what are the roles which you think are the hardest to hire for today?
Sure. I think hiring great people is hard always. I think our team has done a great job, because of which, whenever we put out job openings, we are able to get some good applications. The key roles that we are currently hiring for, I'll name a few. I think as of now, across the company, we probably have about 30 job openings. Um, I think some of the key ones that are top of mind for me are we want to hire about 6 engineers right now. So our new head of engineering, Ankit, joined last month. We are also launching our next version of our US product soon. So we are expanding internationally. By the way, one of the 170 people that we have in the team is actually based in San Francisco. She leads our US growth. Usually all engineers at Skydo are full stack. So we will likely want you to be full stack after you join. But even after being full stack, you can be 80% front end and 20% back end, or vice versa. Then we are hiring about 3 product managers as of now. Then we are hiring a few people in compliance. We are also launching Skydo in Gift City. So the Skydo office in Gift City needs to have its own compliance officer. So we're hiring a compliance officer for that. Similarly, it needs to have its own head of business. So we are hiring a person for business development there. And over time, we will grow the team there as well to run the Skydo Gift City operations. We are also hiring a few people in growth and in marketing. Overall, we have about 30 job openings.
What I'll do, for this video is I'll leave a link for people who are interested to sort of apply to these roles. And you mentioned these roles are not just in Bangalore, but also in Gift City, and also probably in SF. Is it, or you
SF,
have?
not immediately, but I think in a few months we will start hiring in SF as well.
Wow, that's very cool. And you talked about this final round of interview that you take when you are whenever there's a candidate who's going to join. What are the kind of filters that you check for in that final round? What are the kind of questions you ask people? What are the kind of filters you have? If you can share some of those with us.
Sure. I think my interviews generally follow a pattern, and the pattern usually stays the same, but the questions change. Um, so I usually like to focus on firstly understanding the person and the life around them. So I get into their family background, where did they grow up. I get into what kind of professions their family is into, to understand, what their motivations might be in their life and in their career, and so on. And then I also try to understand what they did in their previous work experience. And in past work experience, what I'm looking for is not a description of their day-to-day activities, but rather a more abstract layer of thought around what was going on in the company, what was right, what was wrong. And that, I think, helps me understand whether this person is thoughtful enough to be at Skydo. Because it's, I mean, look at the job of a carpenter. I'm just taking a crude example. It is to cut woods in a certain shape. And if you've been a carpenter for 20 years, then you can basically do your job without thinking, because your hands will just move in a certain way and things will happen. So it becomes muscle memory, right? So that part I'm not very interested in my interview, because I know that my colleagues have already checked for your hard skills before my round. What I'm more interested in is, are you deriving some meaning from the work you're doing and the work that your company is doing? What does that mean to you? How are you thinking about it? Are you plugged into the company's strategy? Are you asking questions? Even if you don't have the answers, are you asking questions? Do you have questions in your mind? And usually it's hard to come up with these questions on the fly. So when I ask somebody about these things, it's very easy to tell a person who's not thoughtful from a person who has a lot of questions and thoughts. Um, and I, of course, like the latter because those kinds of people will actually question me when I take a decision at Skydo and they are part of the team versus me just giving homework to someone and they doing it. I think that's the easy part, and that is not what we are looking for. Um, the and then the next part of the interview is usually problem solving, where I ask at least one business situation and ask them to solve it. Usually, it's not a very difficult one. It's one of the easiest business situations that you can think of is what I will typically ask. But um, the key lies in how you approach it and whether you have enough intellectual flexibility, because I will essentially debate with you on various parts of the solution or various parts of the approach, and I will throw some curveballs during the solution. So, are you intellectually flexible enough to be able to amend your solution during that time? Um, and am I able to understand how your brain is thinking as you go through those twists and turns? Maybe you're brilliant, but I don't understand how you think. In that case, it is going to be difficult for me to work with you. Um, so, and then the next part is usually a math puzzle. Now, I'm not trying to hire mathematicians, so I don't expect people to answer all my math puzzles. Um, that is also kind of dependent on the role. For example, in an engineering role, I feel that math is really, really important. So I would not expect, I would not hire an engineer who's just completely blank on the math puzzle. But if I'm
Can you
hiring
can you
somebody, yeah,
can you give us an example of what a math puzzle looks like? Because it's very very I think rare for people to ask such sort of questions.
sure. I don't want to leak my trade secrets. Maybe let me think of one. Okay, you would have probably heard this, and this is not a puzzle that I've ever asked in my interview, so I'm sharing it here. But hopefully, this will give everybody an idea of what kind of things I ask. So, let's say there are 25 horses, and you need to figure out who are the three fastest horses, number one, number two, and number three, out of these 25, and you can race them five at a time. So, in any race, only five can run, and in whenever any five horses race, you will know one, two, three, four, and five, and no two horses run equally fast. And their speeds are consistent. So in every race, they will run at the same speed, right? So now out of the 25, you need to figure out one, two, and three with the minimum number of races.
Got it. Wow.
So this is one sample question, and obviously I'm not going to ask this in any of my interviews, but the I think the the point is that I typically give a situation which like it's not a puzzle where you have to write some algebraic formulae on a piece of paper and so on, and it's usually not something where some theorem or some formula will help you. It's usually first principles thinking and common sense. um, Now, depending on the role, I'm either looking for a perfect solution or I'm looking for you to just be brave and confident when faced with some difficult problem. Um, and and if all roles are somewhere on this spectrum, and then towards the end of my interview, I would typically want to understand the person's motivations for joining Skydo and what do they want to do in the next few years and so on. And there, of course, somebody with very less experience would typically not have enough clarity, and that's okay. But I still want to understand how they are thinking, whether they are thinking at all or not. Um, yeah, so that's overall my interview.
That sounds like an intense sort of interview. I'm going to take a shot at that math problem and send you the solution after the call. But I
Absolutely.
remember before the call you were mentioning about cheating in interviews, which you've come across a bunch of times, I guess. Uh, like what are those stories like? How did you come across somebody cheating in an interview?
I think this is a really annoying trend that I've noticed in recent times. and it has happened a couple of times in my interviews. After which I also warned my team, who's also doing these interviews, to be careful about these and to watch out for people cheating in interviews, because this is absolutely something I cannot stand. Um, the I think with so I actually the most recent one, I actually saw the candidate staring at one particular corner of the screen. I could see her eyes moving to one particular corner of the screen, um, again and again. And particularly when I asked a question that was likely out of her comfort zone, um, it was happening more. And then in my math puzzle, um, she was able to give an answer, but she started with the answer and not with this, approach that led her to the answer. So all of this kind of made it clear that she was cheating. Um, the And I actually confronted her multiple times. Why are you looking at a particular corner of your screen and so on? And she said, nothing. I'm not doing anything. I can show you my laptop. I can present my screen and so on. This is, I've always preferred in-person interviews rather than virtual, irrespective of, what we just talked about. And whenever this happens, it's just really depressing for me and very annoying. Of course, we don't hire those people, but um, I would go to the extent of kind of getting them blacklisted with whoever listens to me, and make sure that they don't make it to one of my friends' companies and so on, because it's just something that shows poor integrity and lack of confidence in your abilities. So, which I feel is just not acceptable at startups. Um, and the other thing it kind of shows is willingness to take others for a ride, which again is not something I am okay with. But
Yeah.
glad I found out. I don't know if there are cases where I've failed to detect this. So I expect that more and more people will kind of fall into this trap of trying to use some assistance in interviews, which is why I am going to, in the future, focus even more on in-person interviews.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you're a candidate, it's probably not a good idea to use some of these tools. I think that's like um a unanimous point of view from almost all founders. Even if I think they're able to crack the interview, they'll struggle once they join the company, and it might not be sort of good for them to do it. But great. Now let's, from hiring, let's shift our focus a bit towards culture, which is also something founders spend a lot of time thinking about. To me, culture is more about, what do your employees feel about your company. If I was a candidate joining your company, and if I just pick up the phone and call a friend who works in your company, what would they say about Skydo? What are the things that they enjoy about Skydo? What kind of people are likely to stay in Skydo for the long run? What kind of people are likely to not enjoy? What are your thoughts on all of this? What are your, like, I'm sure you've thought about, what's the kind of environment you want to create? What are the kind of people you want to attract? You shared one example of engineers owning the problem statement, for example. Are there other such things about Skydo's culture that you would like people to know, so that they're able to take a more informed judgment about whether this is the right company for them or not?
Absolutely. So I usually do a one-on-one with the people after they join, and I ask them what is one striking thing that they've found about Skydo so far. And for me, this is one, to understand how this person thinks, and two, to also get feedback on the org and on the culture and what's working, what's not working, and what is kind of how does it land in front of a new joinee, whatever we've built so far. So I think the answer I often get is, I'm really surprised that everybody is talking to everybody and everybody is approachable, and the founders don't sit in cabins. Everybody is sitting on the same desks, and the fact that you are having a meeting with me. So that's the answer I get from a lot of the people who join us with like 1 to 2 years experience in like, say, a sales role and so on, or an operations role. So these are people who would, like, when they were working in their previous company, they would probably be 10 or more layers below the founders or the CEO. Of course, because that's a large company, I have nothing to say against those number of layers of hierarchy, but how that hierarchy plays out in daily life and in who talks to whom, how easy is it to talk to someone, who are the people around you, who do you get feedback from, and how do you govern yourselves. I think that is absolutely something which we do very differently compared to most other companies. Now, obviously, if you look at startups versus traditional companies, that is obviously different. But even within startups, I would say that we are on one extreme, which is that we absolutely hate hierarchy. We need to have reporting and levels, but we do not have hierarchy in our minds, right? So any person that wants to talk to me can just add a meeting on my calendar. Then the next thing is, I think people find that the way we think about any problem is devoid of constraints and devoid of rules. So you find out a customer problem, you don't apply rules to it saying, oh, my role is this, so I can't be thinking about that problem. My role is this, so I should not give negative feedback about that. Or I'm sitting in this office, the people sitting in that office need to worry about this. Or
Yeah.
this is, I work on this customer segment, but this customer is from a different segment, or whatever, right? Or, oh, I'm getting poor feedback about my performance right now, and my manager is not happy with me, so let me not bring up this new thing which I'm not supposed to work on, right? All of
Mm.
those rules don't apply at Skydo. These are sometimes said rules and sometimes unsaid rules at different companies, and people have usually experienced one or more such rules in their daily life working at another company. And when they come to Skydo, they feel like there is a new sense of freedom because you can just think about anything and start solving any problem. You will not need to apply these filters or rules. So, for me, again, this is kind of obvious, but people find it quite amazing. Um, I think for me also, I would say that it's slightly less obvious than the previous one, which was lack of hierarchy, in the sense that I've been in some large startups as well, where there is some unsaid thing about, you know, just do your own thing and don't worry about somebody else's mess.
Yeah.
Um, so that is something that I think we've actively tried to remove or not have at Skydo. And we, in fact, actively encourage people to, think about whatever they come across. If there is a person in customer support who came to know about a tech problem that does not affect their own customers directly. So it's not that this customer support person heard it from a customer, but they just still came across some tech problem or thought that something could be done better in the tech team. Then I would actually be disappointed if they didn't say it. And that's the kind of expectation that we've set with everyone. And people have actually gotten feedback, negative feedback from me when they sat on something that they should have spoken about. So I think everybody now understands that Skydo is a place where you just have to speak up. If you come across something, then you just get it fixed and don't think about all these rules. The third thing is, I think, zero politics. Um, the So I've enjoyed my work among all the companies that I've worked at as an employee. I think places that I hated were the places that had the most amount of politics, and places that I loved were the places with the least amount of politics, irrespective of how successful the company was and what level I was at. So I think that is something that we are actively trying to ensure at Skydo. So starts from the leadership team and the founders, where we don't have territories of our own in our heads. We, you know, anybody who gets a responsibility or anybody who thinks of anything just will start working on it and put all of their efforts into it without saying, this is my territory, don't touch this. Or I've seen companies where people want to hire more people because if you can raise an army, then you will be promoted faster.
Yeah.
Right. So this syndrome that a lot of founders have, that, okay, among my leadership team of 10 people, this guy is hiring quite fast. He's got a big team. So now he must play a bigger role. So that, I think, is something I absolutely hate. And I've hated it when I was one of those 10 leaders. But just not getting enough opportunities because I was not hiring as fast.
Yeah.
Or I just didn't believe in overhiring, right? So I think those are things which we've absolutely not had at Skydo at all. So, and then, I mean, this is just one aspect of politics. I think there are many aspects of politics. The way you behave with people when they oppose your viewpoint, particularly somebody who's not as senior as you. I think all of these small things ultimately go a long way in determining how political the environment is. So we've tried to keep it at an absolute zero. And in fact, if anything, I try and lead by example. And if there is somebody who's giving a suggestion or somebody who's giving me some negative feedback, I will take it very seriously. And I will make sure I make it a point to actually acknowledge that feedback, work on it, and get back to them saying, hey, this is what I did. Let me know if it worked, and so on. So I think that then rubs off on everybody else, and sort of, gives, then makes everyone feel that, okay, we are all equal and there is no politics, there is no feeling of, one team doesn't like another team or this person doesn't want me to be successful and so on. Um, yeah, I think these are all the good things. Let me also think of one negative thing just so that I'm not, drinking my own Kool-Aid. Um, Actually, before that, let me also slip in one more positive thing, which is
Yeah.
that we generally follow a pretty healthy work schedule. So we usually start work around 9, 10 a.m. and go until like 6, 7 p.m. There is hardly anybody who would be working at midnight or 10 p.m. Um, if they do, that would be one off and it would be on their own wish. But usually we, like, no manager or leader in Skydo will give a deadline to their people saying you must finish this by 10 p.m. We actually actively encourage everybody to exercise every morning or evening, follow a good sleep schedule, spend time with their family or their pets or their partners or their friends over the weekends, and so on. So I think the reason this happened is, uh, one, of course, we think this is healthy and sustainable, but two, also that me and my co-founder are both in our 30s and 40s, and we have kids, we have families, so we anyway need to follow this schedule. There is no other option for us, and so it kind of cascades down even to people who don't have their family in Bangalore, etc. But we also think that it's pretty healthy for the team and can help them stay happy and stay with the company and keep working hard for a very long time. So, yeah, we've actively tried to follow this. And if I find anybody who's just, trying to work too hard on one particular day, or has been going through a rough patch in terms of being overworked, I would want to step in and solve that problem. Now, with the team of 170, I can't solve everything myself. So there are a lot of places where we've not been able to hire at enough speed. So people are sometimes overworked and so on. But we, as a leadership team, do make it our top priority to solve for that and to talk to those people, reward those people, and also make sure that they're mentally and physically well during that time. And more importantly, we are solving for it as soon as we can. Um, but at the same time, the expectation is that on a one-off case, once in a month or once in a fortnight, when you need to do something and you need to be up till 10 p.m. Working, or you need to stay in office till a little later or something, you would not even, you would not complain, firstly. In fact, I would go so far as to say you would not even let people know. So it's just not something that comes to your mind that, okay, I must let my boss know that I worked so hard today, right?
Yeah.
When that culture comes, then it's always like, okay, I appreciate you for working 2 hours extra on this day, so I will give you 2 hours off tomorrow, and so on. We just don't want that culture. It is your company, you own a part of it, and if the company needs you to work a few extra hours one day or a few extra days in a month, do it, right? And if that means that you must take some rest some other time, again, do it. don't you don't need to talk to anybody about it. You don't need to get acknowledgement from your boss on this, and so on. Yeah, I think one negative thing, I would say that given all of these things, we sometimes are a little slow to hire. And because we are so selective and because we need so many things from people, we sometimes take our time to hire people. And that sometimes then leads to the existing team getting a little overworked and overburdened with work, even though we don't want that. But I would rather have that than, hire somebody who then, we have to very quickly let go of, or somebody who actually creates even more burden for the team because this person is doesn't have their mind in the right place, or is not properly skilled, or that is not the right culture fit, and then creates a whole lot of problems for everybody else. I'm not saying that we never let people go and we never make bad hires. We do. But as a percentage, I think that's very small.
Wow. I think when you were talking about all of this, it was very clear that you've given a lot of thought to these values or behaviors that you want in the company. Uh, and I think some of these things are quite rare in startups. Like having a very clear line between work and life, uh, and hierarchy, and people just being able to do anything that is needed to solve that problem. So I'm sure a lot of people would be inspired to sort of know this. Uh, but one more thing I was very excited to discuss with you was everything that's happening and changing with the world of AI. There's a lot of talk about what kind of skills that people should learn in the new age, what kind of roles are going to be more in demand, less in demand, whether product management would continue, whether there'll be more product managers or less. And you've not just like been a founder, but you've also been a product leader at Meesho, at PhonePe. So if you think of Skydo, like what is your view of what kind of roles are more in demand in your company? What are the kind of people that you are looking for now with everything that's happening around us? Have certain roles become less important or more important, or have you already started thinking about those things?
I think great question. I think about this quite a lot, and to answer the last part of your question, I'm very very actively thinking about how different roles will evolve in this rapidly changing world of AI. I myself am a power user of AI, and use it to solve a lot of my personal and work related problems. Um, I think the the kind of um, work that each person will be doing will change. However, at this point, I wouldn't say that we have fundamentally, rewritten how or what kind of roles we will hire for. I think we have pretty much remained similar. Every person has become more productive for sure, and this validates our earlier thinking, which we've had from day one, which I think I kind of alluded to when we were talking about engineering hiring. But
Yeah.
I think we've generally had this this principle everywhere. To give you one clear example, and maybe slightly controversial earlier, but not so now, I have been telling my co-founder and all our leadership team and everybody that we should not have e- even one person in the company whose job title is analyst or data analyst. So if you look at all of our 170 people, there is no analyst. And in every company that I've worked at so far, there have been analysts, right?
Yeah.
So the reason that I did that, while I mean, it sounds cool to say that we don't have analysts, and so it can probably become a jingle, and that's how I've used it with my team to kind of drive home what I'm trying to say. But the real point I'm trying to say is that uh, things like data analysis and things like even what I said earlier about Rahul's quote that we don't need developers, we need engineers, right? So I think everybody at Skydo should be solving a problem. Nobody should be just using a tool. According to me, data analysis is a tool to solve a problem. It's not a problem in itself, right? Maybe at some point when we are tens of thousands of people, data analysis will in itself be a problem. But today it is not. And so for the next 1 to 2 years, I don't imagine that we will need to hire a data analyst. Every person should essentially be thinking of the problem that they need to solve and then saying, whatever tools we need for it, we will get it. If there is a tool that I need to learn, I will learn that tool. And that's the attitude that I look for in interviews as well. So if somebody says, I am very good at Tableau or I'm very good at Figma, let's say there's a design interview and somebody says, I'm amazing at Figma, you can't find somebody who uses Figma better than me. I
Yeah.
will reject them. I will not hire that person. One, because this skill does not matter to me and to Skydo. And two, because if this person takes so much pride in this particular thing, then likely they don't take enough pride in solving problems. So, so yeah, don't take pride in your tools, take pride in the problems you solve. That's the general philosophy that we've had from day one. And I feel AI just reinforces that philosophy and gives it wings.
Yeah.
Because you throw any problem at your AI agent and it will get solved, even if you don't know those tools. The same is happening in coding now, that if you're not a great coder, but you are a great problem solver or you're very customer obsessed, then you will actually do pretty well as an engineer today as compared to 4 years back, right? Yeah, that's one thing which is, according to me, changing with AI. But given that we followed this philosophy from day one, we've not had to change too much about how we think of our org structure. I'm not saying that will never change. I think there will be fundamental changes. For example, we are currently thinking about, can the design team ship front end code, right? Now, if that happens and if we do a great job at it over the next, say, 3 months, then will I still be hiring as many front end engineers 1 year from now? Probably not. Uh, will I still be hiring the same kind of design team as I'm trying to hire today? I think so, because even today I'm trying to hire problem solvers. Now those problem solvers just have one more tool in their hands uh, to actually see the designs in HTML, not just in Figma, right? So the person who was converting that to HTML is not needed anymore. But then, does that mean that we will hire less engineers? Most likely not, because we were anyway not hiring the kind of engineers who only code.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are some thoughts I have on this. I absolutely don't know what the future of work is. So I'm also trying to learn and figure it out.
Yeah.
So far, at least, it has not completely disrupted our org design or the way we think of hiring.
Yeah, no, but that's a great way to put it, because I think there are so many people in college, for example, or people who are new to companies, and they wonder a lot about like what should they do, like how should they prepare themselves for a job, and I think thinking of themselves as a problem solver instead of attaching themselves too much to one particular tool, which might change, as we speak, is I think probably a good idea for like a lot of people who are preparing to get in the workforce or looking out for jobs.
Absolutely.
Great. I think I'll ask you probably our last couple of questions. I think there might be a lot of founders who might be watching this as well to learn what they could do better when it comes to hiring. And one thing I love about Skydo is that I have seen you personally being quite active on LinkedIn and other platforms. Like when there are hiring callouts from Skydo, for example, oftentimes it comes from your account and not somebody else's account. Whereas it's quite common, in other companies, founders sometimes delegate this stuff to probably like another leader or a recruiter. Is that something that is like a conscious effort from your side? And would you say that is something which has helped you attract talent?
It definitely helps us attract talent. So I think in our case, although I didn't plan it this way, but when we started the company, we realized that I was the one with the most number of LinkedIn followers and friends. So that happened because I was giving product management gyan and doing a few things for the community on my LinkedIn over the last few years. Obviously, I'd never thought of it as this will help me hire for my startup, but it did, right? So that's when this habit of being active on LinkedIn and being active on trying to source great talent, trying to attract great talent on LinkedIn, on my own LinkedIn, started. And I realized it's a good weapon, so why not use it? And it has continued after that. I think other colleagues of mine have become good at it. My co-founder has actually significantly picked up his LinkedIn game. He was not as active when we started the company, but I think today he's more active than me and doing a great job. So I think whatever I had, which was kind of built in the past, I think served as inspiration for him and for a few others. but I continue to be active and use my network to hire people, to attract talent. A lot of the Actually, some of the best people that we've hired so far across different levels have come from network. uh, it's kind of like some of the most relevant customers often come from referrals.
Yeah.
I think hiring works the same way, and I'm sure you would have noticed this as well. So people who are already with you and really relate to your culture want their best friends to join,
Yeah.
because then they can have an even better time, and they can also sort of make sure their friends get a great workplace to work at. So I think that is where a lot of our hiring comes from. But I think to some extent, it's also all of the friends and mutual friends, friends of friends that I have, I think also pass the word around because they know what I'm building. So sometimes my posts will be seen by them, and then they will refer somebody great, etc. So we've seen a lot of that also. And I also think that hiring is genuinely one of the highest leverage uses of my time as a founder. Not just leadership hiring, that is obviously rare because it's a small leadership team, but hiring of all kinds of people, I think it's one of the highest leverage things I can do. The other thing is, I think all the people we have in the leadership team, they are now hiring for their own orgs, and each of them has a pretty sizable org at this time. But the quality trade-off is something which still comes a lot from me and my co-founder, uh, because it is, to some extent, I mean, it's kind of something that has to come from the founders, I feel. At some point, it will become so ingrained into the company that every hiring manager will follow the same standard. But Skydo is not there today, so I'm anyway involved in setting the quality bar. So might as well get involved in also attracting great talent.
Wow. I think that's one common pattern I've heard from a lot of great founders, that looking at hiring as one of the highest leverage activities they can do, and trying to be involved not just at the last step of the process, but also the first step, which is sometimes putting out a job post or just doing a call out. So thanks so much for sharing all of that. I think one last question I wanted to ask you before you go: are there any other startups or companies that you've been impressed when it comes to their hiring, or how they sort of like look at people or hire people? Is there anybody you would like to nominate that we should bring to one of our future sort of episodes? If yes, we'd try our best to make that happen.
Absolutely. I think two companies come to mind. So these are both companies that I've worked at, and one of them you've worked at as well. So Meesho and PhonePe. I think Meesho, because they've really hired great first principles thinkers at every level. Some people from Meesho have joined us in the recent couple of years, and they're doing well. And I've generally found that even my friends who work at Meesho, anybody who I run into who works at Meesho, generally I can expect them to be very high IQ and smart and aggressive and very, very growth focused. So just a very, very refreshing mindset, and the kind of people that I would like to spend time with, working or even outside of work and so on. So I think that is one. The other is PhonePe. Uh, I think the same thing as Meesho to some extent, which is very high competence, high IQ, and very growth focused people. The other thing along with that, I think, which I found very unique in PhonePe, is very balanced people in terms of a very mature take on their work, on life, and um, the ability to um, put things in perspective, given the kind of scale that PhonePe has. I mean, I also got that ability while working at PhonePe. When you're doing like 300 million transactions a day, uh, you just start looking at scale and at your work very, very differently. So everything needs to scale from day one. You cannot think of anything without thinking of scale. So I think they've done a great job in hiring the kind of people who can manage this. And then maybe a lot of those people actually did not have this skill when they joined PhonePe. I didn't, but in the 2 years that I spent there, I grew this skill of mine, and I see that a lot of people at PhonePe are pretty good at this.
Wow. No, I totally agree with you. I think Misho, we've been both lucky to see firsthand. And I've heard quite a few people say good things about PhonePe as well. So, we'll do our best to get someone from both those companies. Thank you so much, Movin. This was, I think, much longer than what I thought, but it was so much fun. Getting to hear from you in so much detail. Thank you so much for doing this.
No problem, and it was my pleasure as well. It's always great speaking to you. We've been friends for so many years now, and thank you for letting me tell my story.